This city is dying, and it only has about 13 residents and a lot of cats. This hot spring is said to have healing properties, and I can't believe that it's free. And this town was built on cheese. Metaphorically, of course, but the food is crazy good. But the craziest part of all of this is that you can do it all in one day, because it only takes 3 hours to drive from Rome to Florence. But if you want to take a 1-hour train ride to watch all of these fun things go by, that's up to you as well. Meanwhile, I'm going to pick up my rental car from Tiburtina station because I'm terrified of driving out of the center of Rome. All the rental cars are scratched up and I am terrified. But maybe it's really the Italians who should be scared, because I am used to driving on the wrong side of the road here. But we are finally here at Civita Di Bagnoregio, otherwise known as the Dying City, because the cliffs around it have eroded. So the residents have moved outside the city, and this is where we'll park to walk 20 minutes to Civita Di Bagnoregio. The town is beautiful and there's plenty to see, and at the end there's a toilet that will set you back a couple of euros, but it doesn't compare to this view, which is just priceless. Once you get to the base of the pedestrian footbridge, there's a ticket office where you can buy passes to the city for 5 euros. And it's a pretty easy walk up until you get about here. This hill is so steep that by the time we get up to the top, we just want to sit down. And luckily there are plenty of seats inside, just out of the sun. And then inside there's a courtyard filled with small restaurants and souvenir shops. And this is a perfect pit stop. But we are on a time crunch. So we start to explore the secret courtyards and walk to the back of the city. And here is where we find the secret garden, which, to be honest, wasn't that secret. It was a busy secret garden. But nevertheless, there was plenty of space. There was even an upstairs area, which had a nice photo spot as well. There's even a downstairs area, which I'm too afraid to go into. So we have Dad Cam to the rescue. And it's not that scary downstairs, but did you see that pile of bones before? And that is why I'm glad that my dad will always be there for me, because he captured some amazing footage before pointing out the bones. And I ran out of there. This garden is beautiful, even the downstairs part. There is a catch though, because you do need to buy something from the shop at the end of your visit. But they do have a variety of spices, pastas, and even fresh fruit from their garden, which was a popular choice for a lot of Asian aunties. At this point, we were running a bit behind on schedule, so we decided to grab some takeaway pork sandwiches and get out of there. Luckily, Saturnia was just over an hour away through some scenic spots. There are 3 things to remember when you go to Saturnia. Number 1, remember to pay for parking at the Saturnia car park. Number 2, bring water shoes. And number 3, bring swimwear. And I'm telling you all of this because I got 0 out of 3. Even though I was walking barefoot on sharp rocks, wearing my clothes that were just sopping wet, and blissfully unaware that I was about to get a parking fine, I can't help but feel like it's worth it. These thermal springs are called Cascate del Mulino, and they're completely free and open to everyone 24/7. According to legend, the gods were arguing, and Jupiter threw a thunderbolt at Saturn that missed and hit the Earth, forming these beautiful rock formations. The water in these pools are actually filtered underground for about 40 years, which means it brings up a lot of minerals along the way, which are said to have incredible healing properties for the skin, respiratory system, and muscles. But because it's also high in sulfur content, the water is eggy, and I really recommend you wear swimwear because this was really hard to get out of my clothes. Another tip for going to the Saturnia thermal springs is, this is the free one called Cascate del Mulino, but there is another one called Terme Di Saturnia, which could be easily mixed up for people like me. But I'm also glad that I can give you a comparison between the 2 experiences. And both of them are great, but it just depends what sort of bath you like. Terme Di Saturnia is basically a big water park of baths, and it uses that same water that is rich in minerals and really great for your skin. But additionally, there are areas where they have water jets for those sore muscles and also lounging areas for when you don't want to be in the water. Terme Di Saturnia is definitely a lot less touristy compared to Cascate del Mulino. But of course, this one you have to pay for. And I was really enjoying my time in here until I spotted all of these worms in the water. I got out of there so quickly, but no one else seemed to care. So I read up on it later and found out that mosquito larvae are actually really common in the thermal springs. And it's just an accepted part of bathing. We ended up spending way longer here than we should have and ended up missing our hotel check-in, and we went straight to dinner, making sure to catch the sunset near the town of Pienza. Idyllium is a beautiful restaurant on the edge of Pienza that overlooks the Val d'Orcia. And I have to admit, I originally booked this because it was so pretty. But unfortunately, we spent a bit too long at the baths. So our view was mostly darkness with the outline of trees. But the Tuscan cuisine was amazing, locally sourced, with really fresh and high quality ingredients. And their cocktails were so creative. There was one cocktail where you would eat a pepper halfway through drinking it, and it would completely change the flavor profile. Not to mention the food was amazing as well. And the truffle pasta was so good that even though we were all full, we were considering ordering a second plate. It was pretty late by the time that we finished, and we retired to a cute little aguriturismo called l'Olmo, which was only about 15 minutes away, and even in the dark, this place was cute. We had separate bedrooms and we fell asleep quickly. And in the morning, we were greeted with beautiful postcard views of Tuscany. And also this weird face, which I'm really glad we didn't see the night before. Seriously though, even though we were trying to have a chaotic 24-hour road trip through Tuscany, it's so hard to do that when you're at the most amazingly peaceful aguriturismo. We had breakfast in the dining room and then we spent the morning playing pool and exploring the grounds. And my parents found fruit trees near the pool. It was hard to pry them away from these fruit trees, but it was time to see some other trees and check out of the hotel. Our first stop was Poggio Civili, which is also another aguriturismo, and when we got there, there were already a lot of people at the front. This did make it a bit hard to get photos, and especially because it was private property, we didn't want to go past the rope or sign that indicated it. But we did manage to get some pretty cute pics as a family. There were also some nice vantage spots nearby where you could see the row of cypress trees from the distance. Something that you should know about Pienza is that it's not just famous for its cheese. It's also a UNESCO heritage site, and it was built as the ideal city by Pope Pius II. And to be fair, with them selling chocolate at the front of the city, it's pretty ideal to me. This city is built around the central courtyard of the Pope's palace. For a small town in the middle of Tuscany, it's pretty packed. And it's really cool to see that there are a lot of Italian tourists too. And a lot of them walk down the famous streets Via dell'Amore, Via del Baccio, and Via della Fortuna, which are on the edge of the town. And in the middle of the town, there are some cute shops selling souvenirs that even the locals will buy. I think the shop that really caught my eye though was this leather shop, Bottega Artigiana del Cuoio, which is run by Valerio Truffelli and his wife. This shop has been open since 1981, but weirdly enough, there are only 37 reviews on Google. So it makes me feel like this place is really a hidden gem. They sell a variety of leather goods, but the one that really caught my eye was the beautiful notebook with Val d'Orcia on it. The very same notebook that I'm reading off right now. We didn't have too much time left, so we went to grab some pork sandwiches and some gelato from Buon Gusto, which had some really cool flavors like blueberry cheesecake and lemon lavender. We grabbed our pork sandwiches to go because we were on a tight schedule to make the end of our rental car booking, and we still wanted to visit a Tuscan winery. And this is where the chaos begins because we ended up visiting two. But hear me out. On our way to Poggio Amorelli, we saw a beautifully long row of cypress trees, and we decided to stop. This was our first mistake. We knew that we had to drive up this row of trees, and once we got to the top, the view was so beautiful that we decided to stop for a drink. And ironically, it was this moment of peace that caused all of the chaos going into Florence. Our second mistake was probably not skipping Poggio Amorelli, which was a small family-run winery really well known for their Chiantis. And even though they were packed, luckily we were able to sit down for a bit with a glass of wine. And it was here that we realized that most definitely we were missing the deadline for our rental car. But if there's anything our family can do, it's accept our fate. And we ended up driving into Florence during peak hour, which was chaotic. A small reminder to us that if we put off the inevitable chaos, eventually it will come back to bite us. But we didn't regret anything. We managed to fit so much in one overnight road trip, and we would do it all again. And spoiler alert, we did survive the crazy Florence traffic. So subscribe to see our adventure in Florence, and hit like or comment to support me because every one of it counts. Thank you for watching, and I hope you embrace your chaos today.